Hey everyone, I'm Mind, and this is set number 71843, Rogue's Mech Dragon Rider from the Summer 2025 LEGO Ninjago wave. This set contains 584 pieces, 4 minifigures, and will retail for $74.99 USD, or €69.99 Euro. This set does not officially release until June 1st, 2025 in most parts of the world, and August 1st, 2025 in North America, but it was gifted to me early for review by the LEGO Group through the LEGO Ambassador Network, but all opinions expressed in this video are entirely my own. Before I get started, I want to quickly ask you guys to please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'm doing early reviews right now of a bunch of the Summer 2025 Ninjago sets, as well as a few sets from some other themes, so if you enjoy this kind of content and you want to see more, liking and subscribing does a ton to help support me and the channel, and it also helps YouTube to show you my videos more often. So thank you all very much for your support, and now let's get into the review. So here's Rogue's Mech Dragon Rider, which is our third ever Ninjago Mech Rider set. The first two are both for Kai, so it's pretty exciting to have one that's not for Kai, and I'll show you later in this video, but it is actually compatible with the previous two. But the idea behind the whole mech rider thing is it's a mech riding something else. Previously it was a mech riding a motorcycle or a mech riding a jet. This time around though, it's a mech riding a mech dragon, which is such a silly concept, but I love it. I think it's super cool. So I guess we'll start by taking a look at each of the two builds individually, and then I'll reconnect them together at the end. But yeah, we have Jay, or Rogue's mech, here on the back, and that can just pop off very easily, and that leaves behind the mech dragon. We'll start by taking a look at the mech, which is a new build in the Evo style. If you're not familiar with the Evo mechs, they were first introduced in 2021 for Ninjago Core. There was a Kai one and a Zane one in the first wave, then the second wave had a second Kai one on the Mech Rider, as well as the Lloyd one, and then we got a third Kai one earlier this year on the second Mech Rider, but this is our first ever one for Jay, which is very nice to see, because despite having 5 of them before this point, we only had 3 different ninja covered. So it's neat to see them go back and revisit that line. I will say I'm a bigger fan of the Elemental Power Mech style of mechs, which we also get this way with the Arin mech, because those are a little bit bigger, but not too much so, and I just feel like those have so much more room for creative designs, but I also think those are way out of the Mech Rider scale, so I think for a Mech Rider this makes sense. Starting at the feet of the mech, you can see he's wearing sandals very similar to the ones that we saw on Lloyd and Arin's Ninja Team-Up mechs, specifically the Lloyd mech was wearing them. Also, I guess the Arin mech is also technically an Evo style mech, so we've had 6 of them total. This is still our first one for Jay. I think they fit Rogue's whole samurai aesthetic really well too, and it's a very unique design to put on such a small build. Whenever I'm building like custom mechs, I always find the feet the hardest thing to come up with an idea for. This one though feels good because it feels properly themed, despite like not using a ton of parts because it is at such a small scale. The legs use the SCCBS joints in blue, which is so nice to see in a Ninjago set, because previously I believe they were exclusive to LEGO Mario, and then they were re-released on LEGO Superheroes, but this is the first Ninjago set to use them. Then we have a standard Nexonite shield piece here, because pretty much all of these mechs use that to some extent, and some bulkier armor at the thighs in dark tan. The torso has a stickered tile on it with an all-new design. It's very similar to like the center of the chest we've seen in some of the previous Evo mechs, but instead it's got this lightning energy in the center, which I think looks really good. The actual cockpit at the center is the Nexonite / Marvel cockpit piece. I'm a little disappointed to see that being used. It works perfectly fine for this mech, but personally I'm a much bigger fan of the Ninjago original cockpit piece that we've seen on the Elemental Power mechs and the previous Evo mechs. The Ninjago one's just a lot bulkier, and I feel like it covers up the rider better, and also the Marvel / Nexonites one has been around forever, and so many different sets have used it. So at least personally to me, the shape doesn't feel as unique or as exciting, as opposed to the Ninjago one, which is used very rarely in specifically Ninjago. I think one Monkey Kid set used it and that's it. So recoloring the Ninjago cockpit piece in blue I think would have been amazing. But this one still works, and also creates this pretty cool angle that I don't think you'd be able to do with the other one, because the other one has a more flat back. Of course the cockpit can open up, and that's where the minifigure fits inside. You can see there's just a couple of studs to attach the backs of his legs to. I like that the mech gets a flag on its back, because that's also what the core mechs did, and even though it's been a while since Ninjago Core when we were getting all those printed flag pieces, this helps this build to fit in with all of those, even if they're not exactly the same. On one arm there's like this dark tan sort of like fur armor. It's the same thing we could see on Rogue's torso, right? You can see the dark tan fur right there on his back. So I think it was a smart idea to bring that over to the mech too, and this piece specifically to be fur works really well. There's another stickered piece here with the Ninjago letter J sort of etched into it, and then another Nexonite shield and pretty standard mech fingers at the end, which can be posed individually, as well as a technical to hold onto an accessory. The other arm is different though. It has a big vinyl cape piece instead. Now that is easily the coolest part of this build. It takes something from a rather simple mech and makes it very interesting. There's the Ninjago letter R and the Ninjago letter J here for, of course, Jay's two personas, Rogue and Jay. And this looks so nice, the way it sort of like swoops over his shoulder. It looks like it's flowing in the wind. Such an incredible inclusion on this build. The end of the arm though, we have another Nexonite shield piece and 3 more fingers, and this is where an accessory is actually being held. Rogue's mech includes this giant staff with a blade on the end, and that blade has a little lantern on it with a tassel hanging off of it, which is very very cute and also sort of ties in with the whole theming of this wave. There's a lot of lanterns and a lot of sets. It's neat that this one is actually on the build. But of course, you can completely detach this accessory if you want to just attach this with a Technic pin, so you could swap hands or give it to another mech, because as I said, yes, this is compatible with the other Mech Rider sets, including the Kai mech from earlier this year, so it does not have to always be holding this weapon specifically. Posability on this mech is pretty good. There's a little restriction with the top of this arm right here, but it's not the end of the world. You can go up that high, which is probably as much as you need to do, and of course spinning around a full 360. Tons of motion on the legs too, you can basically move these around however you want. And same thing with the feet, pretty big motion forward and back, and then even more side to side. And because it's so small, it's incredibly easy to balance too. Very similar in posability to the previous Evo mechs, like nothing too different from them. And whenever I'm posing one of these, I always wonder why the Marvel mechs are the way they are, because they're so similar to these, but somehow they get the posability so much more wrong. Those things are incredibly restrictive, and this just is not. This is what a mech should be. This is fun. It can pose well, it can stand up well, and it looks good. It's got everything it needs. The Ninjago team just knows how to do it. So yeah, this is a very nice little mech in its own right, but this set, of course, is not just a mech, it is a Mech Rider. And you can see there's some bars right here on the mech, and that's where it can actually connect to the Mech Dragon. So now moving this over here, here is Rogue's Mech Dragon. It's been a while since we last got a Mech Dragon. I think the last one was Prime Empire back in 2020. So it's awesome to finally have one again, and this one is very different from our previous ones. Right off the bat, the color scheme, it is light gray, white, and dark blue. I like that a lot because it's a J Dragon that isn't too like heavily J colored. Like yes, the dark blue is the color that he uses specifically as Rogue, but it was only ever an accent color before he was Rogue, so seeing it featured so prominently makes this feel very unique. Light bluish gray as well is a color that I don't really think Ninjago uses all too much. Like, it's sometimes a Zane accent color, but no, Ninjago sets tend to go more colorful, so it's kind of funny to say. If you're like a Star Wars collector, you're probably tired of seeing that color all the time, but in Ninjago it feels somewhat fresh and new. And then the white too, I think, ties everything together so perfectly, as well as the transparent yellow to be the lightning effects. Starting at the head of the dragon, it does use the modern dragon head system, and we have two all-new colors for parts here. The upper head piece is the one that was first introduced on Zane's Ice Dragon creature, though of course now it's still molded in white and trans yellow, and it's got an all-new print to look very like robotic and digital. And then the bottom jaw is the one first introduced on the Jungle Dragon in 2021, but now it doesn't have any printing and it's just a solid light gray. If you're making custom dragons, I feel like that one especially is a very useful part to have. Then this set has an all-new like elemental effect piece, this new wisp. It's transparent yellow to be like lightning, but that's an amazing shape for that part. It does come in multiple sets this way, but I think this is the only one where it comes in transparent yellow, and it's on both sides, sort of erupting from the jaw. Of course, you could pose the different parts of this dragon's head. You can open the mouth up like that, open it from the bottom, and then also just move it around entirely on the neck. Posability with that is a little bit limited. It looks down just fine, but if you wanted to go any more up, you can't really. You have to sort of go at a bit of an angle. I don't think that's the end of the world, because if you wanted to look up, just move the legs to have it look up, but it is something to be aware of. Coming down the neck, it has what I assume are meant to be like little exhausts, as well as this gold plating, which definitely makes it feel like a mech dragon. There's a stickered piece on the side here too with some more gold armor, and then everything else is very flat. I think it does a good job of feeling organic enough as if it could actually move around, but not too organic so it still feels like a robot. And then of course right here we come down to the saddle. Here are the two clips where the mech can attach, and there's a little golden blade for a tail out the back. I love the design of the front of the chest, this like stripe that goes down the middle, and there is another stickered part right here just showing some armored plating, as well as one little bit of transparent blue, which I assume is meant to be like a power source or something. The wings, just like the cape on Jay's mech, are vinyl pieces. This lightning effect they have going on is incredible here, and I love the way the white looks with the yellow. And then underneath, of course, the physical wing is built with Technic, so we have a little thruster or exhaust coming out right here, one of the sea-bound blade pieces, because that's a really cool way to end things off. And then there is a tiny little claw on a ball joint, which can also be posed. Both wings are pretty much the same, just entirely mirrored, but there is a pretty great range of motion on them. Like, you could basically move these however you want. Finally, coming to the legs, they're very similar to the ones in the Elemental Dragon versus the Empress mech set. Definitely a little scaled down here, just because this is a good bit smaller of a set overall, but it is done in a very similar style. Now, I think that style really works, so I don't mind a very similar thing being used here, but it does make both dragons feel very dinosaur-like. I always say this about Ninjago Dragons, but it often feels like most Ninjago Dragons are based off some sort of real-life animal. Like, immediately what comes to mind is the Jungle Dragon is so clearly supposed to be a dog. Obviously, it's a dragon, so it has, like, dragon features, but its expressions and its shape are more dog-inspired. The Green Forest Dragon earlier this year was some sort of bird, probably like a hawk or something. And Jiro, the dragon from Elemental Dragon vs. Empress mech, to me was very clearly a T-Rex. As such, because the legs are so similar here and we have, like, the separate wings, this one also feels like a dinosaur to me. But because it's a little bit smaller, maybe it's a little more Velociraptor than it is T-Rex. But either way, I think the dinosaur vibes are very cool. Feet are also very similar to Elemental Dragon versus Emperor's Mech. They have no forward back motion just for stability reasons, but they do have side to side. And then of course these claws at the front can be posed individually. Speaking of posing, you can definitely get some fun ones out of this build. It is a little front heavy when you don't have anything on it, but that's because it's supposed to account for the mech being on its back. But yeah, you can see even without the mech, I have it in a walking pose like this, or I can have it stomping around, standing on one foot. Then of course when you want, you can attach the mech on those clips, and it can be even more fun to pose with that on there. With the mech weighing down the back too, you can also get a lot more dramatic with the walking poses. So yes, I am very impressed by this one. It's incredibly full of life. The mech's good, the dragon's great, and when they come together, it's fantastic. And then yeah, as I mentioned, if you have the Kai Mech Rider set from earlier this year, or the original Kai Mech Rider from back in 2022, they are compatible with each other. So if you want, you can have Jay's mech ride Kai's vehicle, or Kai's mech ride the Jay Dragon. And honestly, I would love to see more sets in this line in the future. So hopefully if we do get future ones, those will also be compatible with all of these. I'm just happy we have them for a different ninja now. You're not just putting a different Kai mech on a different Kai vehicle. But anyway, I think that's about all I have to show you for the main builds of this set. So now let's take a look at the minifigures, and then I'll give you my overall thoughts on everything at the end. Now coming to the minifigures, here are the first two in this set. We have Jay in his Rogue persona, and then we have Arin. Unfortunately, neither of these minifigures are new for this set. Rogue did come in a January set, and then this version of Arin came in a March set. But at the very least, they're not the most common minifigures in the world. Rogue actually is somewhat common now, coming in an additional 3 sets this wave, but this is only the second set where we've gotten this version of Arin, and the other set was also $70, so this is very comparable to that one. I guess I'll start off by talking about their accessories, though. Jay comes with this pretty interesting sword that's like on the top of a staff, and that might look somewhat familiar to you because it's meant to be a smaller version of the weapon that his mech has that we just looked at. I think the consistency between the minifigure and the mech is a really creative idea, and the weapon is somewhat unique for a Ninjago set. It's not what we typically see. These days, most Ninjago weapons are just katanas or like very simple little builds. This is nothing crazy, but it's a combination of parts in colors I don't think we've ever had in Ninjago before. So it fits Rogue well, I like it. Now, Arin's accessory is the new collectible of this wave, the Revealing Blade. And these come in pretty much every set this wave, if not every single one outside of the Legends sets. And it's a very cool new dual-molded part in transparent red and gold. It's got this dragon face on the bottom, which you can see on both sides. And there is like a little play feature with it, which we'll take a closer look at when we look at the villain minifigures. But just as a weapon, I think it's really neat, very different from anything we've had from Ninjago before. I love how thick the blade is, and transparent red is just a very cool color. And then Arin also comes with a little lantern as an accessory, which does tie into the show, but that might be considered a spoiler, so I won't mention what it is in the show, but if you know, you know. Anyway, with the accessories removed, here's a better look at the actual minifigures, and as I said, I've covered these guys before, so I'm not going to go super in-depth about them, but in short, I actually quite like both of these guys. They're both of our evil ninja minifigures for this year. It's the dark version of Jay and the dark version of Arin. Jay does not come with his armor piece here, which is a little bit unfortunate. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of how it looks on him, so it's not the end of the world, and I assume the reason he doesn't have it is because he wouldn't fit into his mech with it on, but even still, I always like getting more parts because you can always take it off. You can't add it back on if you don't have it. So I would have appreciated if it was included, but it's not a big deal that he doesn't have it. I do generally really like the Rogue design. Using dark blue as his main color is really cool, and I love all these little like lightning and cloud effects that are gold on his torso and his legs. Dark red's a really neat color too, and all of the original Ninja also use that this wave. And then you can see he's got the Ninjago letter J on the back to show that yes, this is still Jay. Removing his hat and half mask, there's a full look at the back torso print as well as the front torso print. And there you can see his full face print, which is an exclusive face for Rogue. It's a single-sided Jay face where he's just very angry, very serious, which is so unlike any other Jay we've had before. So I'm really glad this face is more common now because Rogue comes in more sets. It's a really cool one for him. And then Dark Arin is really neat as well. I love how they sort of just corrupted his original Season 1 suit. So he's still got the golden horns on his hood, but now it's on black instead of bright orange. And he's using Cole's armor piece too, which is also black. And it sort of becomes like a scarf that continues over into this arm. Then he's got like the spray-painted magenta dragon on his torso that's like dripping, which is a lot less elegant than the original orange dragon that he had. But as you move down the outfit, the orange becomes a lot more prominent and it feels more like actual Arin. I'm glad to see this guy's in more sets because previously he was exclusive to the Thunderfang set, and I know not everybody's going to get that one, so now you have another way to get him. And here's a look at the back torso print too, where that magenta dragon continues and it spells out his name in jargon. His face print is still just the one from Season 1, which I would have liked to see updated, especially for Dark Arin. I think an angry face would have been amazing, but it is what it is, and at the very least it looks good when he has the full mask on. It's just with it removed, it looks a little odd. Then here are the final two minifigures in this set, and unlike the previous two, these two are actually new. We have Rox, who's one of the Forbidden Five and the Elemental Master of Fear, and then one of the Spectral Dragonians, who are just like the generic villains for this wave. Again, before we talk about the figures themselves, let's take a look at the accessories. The Spectral Dragonian comes with this banner, and this is what actually ties into the revealing blade that I showed you guys earlier. The Spectral Dragonian comes with a banner with a sticker on it, and that's what actually ties into the revealing blade that I was just talking about. Basically, the idea is you place the blade in front of the banner, and that's going to reveal a picture underneath, because these lighter blue parts of the picture sort of disappear, and the white and red becomes a lot more obvious. So when you do that, you can see there's like a dragon face in the banner, which presumably is meant to be Thunderfang. That's a really smart use of LEGO's transparent parts that I've never seen them do before. It's very unique functionality for the set. Just like the revealing blade though, this part is not unique to the set at all. Every single set that comes with a revealing blade comes with something to reveal, but I still think it's really neat and I'm happy it's here. And then Rox just comes with a blade on one of these sand green monkey kid hilt pieces. That's what all the Forbidden 5 use as well. They each have slightly different weapons but that same exact hilt, so I appreciate that consistency was kept with the summer wave too. But now Rox herself, I am so excited to finally get this minifigure. She first appeared in Ninjago Dragons Rising like last summer, so I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for this character to finally have a physical minifigure because she's arguably one of the most important members of the Forbidden 5. She uses reddish brown on her arms and her hat, which I know some people had an issue with. They would have preferred dark brown, and I get that, but honestly in hand it's not super noticeable that like they're not dark enough, and it makes the difference in colors between that and the black torso a little more obvious, so I'm okay with the way they did it. Something else pretty neat about Rox is she is the first ever Ninjago minifigure to use mid-legs, which if you're not familiar with these, they're a size of legs between like the short legs that can't move and the standard minifigure legs. They were first introduced in LEGO Harry Potter, what, like 7 years ago at this point? So I'm kind of surprised it's taken this long, but I like it. It makes her more unique, and definitely helps her stand out from the rest of the Forbidden 5 too. She's got these very evil looking faces on the trim of her robe, I guess to represent her element fear. And then the best part about this minifigure is definitely the face print. In the show, her white mask is like 3-dimensional, but instead they decided to print it here. And I was a little bit worried about that, especially because white printing usually looks pretty bad on minifigures. The color of the plastic underneath will often bleed through, and then it won't even look like the color it's supposed to be. It won't look white, it would look like an off orange. But I'm pleasantly surprised to say, no, this mask is printed very, very well. It actually looks exactly how it should, which makes me so incredibly happy. Turning her around, she does have stripes on the back of her head, just like Noct had, and then she's got the Forbidden 5 dragon symbol that all of them also do. Really nice minifigure, and she is exclusive to this set, so I'm very happy to finally have her. Wish she came in more sets, because it's a bit of a shame that some of the Forbidden 5 come in 3 sets and others only come in 1, but I'm just happy she's here at all. And then the Spectral Dragonians are amazing for just like generic villains. Now there's a few different variations of these guys with different helmet colors, and then some have the ghost tail pieces like this, others have printed legs. And I do think I slightly prefer the printed legs version, but the ghost tail's pretty cool too. They use like this minty blue as their main color, and the tail's still molded with transparent light blue. And then they also have transparent light blue arms with red hands inside. So the red of the hand part you can see through the transparent arm. So it almost looks like they have extra detail on the arms as if they're printed, even though obviously they're not. Just like the Dragonians earlier this year too, this guy comes with a little dragon flyer on his back. It's the same ones that we got in the January sets, except now it's dark blue instead of dark red. But yeah, it can be detached so it can like fly around separately. But when it's attached, it serves as both wings and a tail for the Dragonian. Center of the torso, they now have this silver armor with like a dragon face, I assume Thunderfang, and that's a metallic silver. And here's a look at the minifigure with the armor and helmet piece removed. There you can see the full face print, which is very similar to the Dragonians earlier this year, though again it's on that like minty blue. There's a darker blue like spectral printing around it though for their face, and they're just like screaming and angry here. Then the alternate face, they no longer have that like fire blast they had on their previous minifigures. Instead it's like this spectral ghost blast. It has that Forbidden 5 logo that you can also see on Rox's back. So if you turn the head around, you could still have the effect similar to earlier this year where they're breathing fire, but now instead of breathing fire, they're breathing like ghost energy or something. These guys are just the generic villains of this wave, so they do come in a good couple of sets, but they might be some of the coolest generic villains we've had in a while. I liked the ones earlier this year, but they were just fine. This though for me is probably up there as one of my favorite just generic villain armies of all time. I love transparent pieces, I think they look amazing. And I like that they're doing ghosts that aren't green for the first time ever too. Very neat. But now, overall, what are my thoughts on this set? Well, one thing I haven't touched on yet is the price. And for right now, I'm going to be using the European price to gauge value, just because all the American prices are higher this summer, and that's not LEGO's fault, that is the fault of economic conditions that I'm not going to get into here. But up until this current wave, European prices and American prices were always aligned pretty much. There was a few exceptions, but most of the time they were aligned. And now suddenly American prices are higher, so the European price is what it typically would be, so that's what I'm going off of. But of course, every single price of the summer in America is worse, so whatever I say, just go, okay, it's a little worse in America. But to me at least, 70 for this feels okay. A couple of years ago, this absolutely would have been a $60 set. It feels like a $10 mech plus a $50 dragon, but it's not 60, it's 70, which is a little high. That being said, said, things are just generally more expensive, and there is a lot going for this set. We've got some new, like, big molded pieces, we have exclusive vinyl pieces in this set. But on the flip side of that, it also only comes with 4 minifigures, which is pretty disappointing. So I think that's the biggest thing, is it needed, like, 1 or 2 more minifigures thrown in to, like, really justify that value. Including one of the main Ninja would have been nice, because, like, Nia and Zane are exclusive to a $200 set, pretty much. Nia especially would have made sense to come in the J set, so either of them here would have been great. Or even just, like, an extra Spectral Dragonian, I don't know, only 4 minifigures is a little underwhelming. The builds themselves, though, are very, very cool. To me, this is easily the best Mech Rider yet, and I really hope to see this line continue with more, like, creative and wacky ideas. We've had a bike now, we've had a jet, we've had a dragon. I want to see where else they could go with the whole Mech Rider concept. I'd also argue that this might be our best Mech Dragon ever, like, it turned out really cool. The biggest thing for me, I think, is the coloration, but I also love the whole, like, dinosaur thing it has happening. Especially when I was posing it at the end there, that's when I, like, really fell in love with it. If you care about builds a lot, then yes, absolutely, it's a really cool build, probably one of my favorites this wave. At least as of the sets I've built so far. I don't have Rontu and I don't have the Mech Jet. But of all the other sets this wave, I think this is probably my favorite build. But if you're more of a minifigure collector, I don't know if this one's as needed. Like, yes, it does come with the exclusive rocks, which is an important one to get, but then 2 of the characters are repeats and one's just a generic army member, which also comes in other sets. So I wish there was a bit more there. So yeah, if you're a huge minifigure person and you don't care as much about builds, it might be worth waiting on this one till it, like, goes on sale, or just getting other sets that have more in terms of minifigure selection. But the actual build is super cool, and the price, while not great, could be a lot worse. Far from the worst price set this wave. But of course, those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think of this set in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to my channel if you're new. And let me know in the comments which Summer 2025 Ninjago set do you want to see an early review of next. But as for this video, I think that's about all I have to say, so thanks for watching everybody, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!